Welcome everybody back to another BOLDcast reaction. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
This is Apothecary Diaries. Shenmei has shown herself.
And she's looking scary.
Yep, in a gun factory.
Yep.
Let's see what she does in this gun factory. Let's see what happens to Maomao. And the rest of the gang. Will Jinshi show up in time? Let's see. Leave a like and subscribe. Let's go.
Oh boy.
Suirei.
Oh.
Jesus.
ネズミくらいちゃんと管理しなさい。申し訳ありません。あら。この子供見たことあるわね。神父様。皆様のご子息です。早く行きましょう。お母様。ローラン。やっぱりそうだった。
So it's as I thought.
100
strikes. これはいかん。この女は危ない。折檻と称して始末されるのがオチだ。早くしなさい。お母さん以前おっしゃっていたでしょう。新しい薬師が欲しいと。この娘がそうです。クスシには見えないけど。ええ、でも弱い産地の薬日々おのが薬を試す年を取らない。
What?
Well, this is seemingly what she maybe wants.
につながるものを作れるのは確かです。失敗したら前の男のように死ぬだけです。妙薬、前の男。そう、なら仕方ない。
Suirei's dad? Maybe?
続きはまた後ほど。そうだわ。ここではまともな仕事もできないでしょう。も一緒に連れて行きましょう。私たちの砦に。
I don't like the sound of that.
止水の正体はローラン妃だった。とんだ役者。いや、まるでタヌキのようだ。大浴場でリーシュ妃に近づかなかったのも、自分がローラン妃だとバレないようにするため。私から隠れなかったのは、マオマオを捕まえた時にローラン妃と気づかなかった感じてはいたが、虫好きでちょっと変わっていて噂話に花を咲かせる。見事止水に化かされていたというわけか。
The stronghold. It looks like it would be really hard to break out of here.
ここまでお前を連れてくるつもりはなかった。止水とは異母姉妹ですか。私を姉として扱うあいつだけだよ。やはりそうか。ローランは師匠の一人娘と聞いていた。娘がもう一人いたとなれば、あれほど恐ろしい奥方のシェンメイからはされないだろう。シェンメイ様は私が憎くて仕方ないんだ。もともと死の一族の傍流に過ぎなかったが、才覚を見込まれの家に養子に来て、そして師匠という名をもらい、二人は婚約した。
Oh.
Interesting.
シェンメイ様は高級に
Okay.
というかできた時には、父のそばに私がいた。シェンメイ様は母と私を屋敷から追い出し、用人としてこき使った。その名前に一族を表せることすら嫌がった。もしかして止水というのは。ああ、元は私の名前だ。ローランがそう言っているようですね。下女として偽名を使うなら、もっと違う名を選べばよかったのに。そういう子なんだ。同じ男の娘として生まれたのに、一方は蝶よ花よと育てられ、帝の花として献上される。師匠が黒幕だったのだろう。高級管理者のjinshi様は高級のあり方を変えようとしていた。師匠のやり方に反するように。しかしそれだけか。止水、いやローランが価値があると言った勘、ただの勘ではない。いや宦官ですらなかった。どうした。宦官を装って高級に入ってられましたか。
Hmm.
何をいきなり。 触診だ。虚勢していない男が入るには3人の間に触診される。難しいだろうな。ならばジンシ様はどうやって入った？高級に料理自由な男子は帝かその縁者のみ。帝に近しい男子は王帝しかいない。可能性も考えたが年齢が違う。けれど出る幼い振る舞いが本来のジンシ様の姿だとしたら
What if?
狩りの時に何か大
You fucking idiot.
人を狂わせる。なんと恐ろしい。どうした？
Wait a minute. So bad.
よし、この件はひとまず置いておこう。現状を把握するな。
Right. Let me just ignore that really quick.
ガオシュン様は特使が宿舎から抜け出して何者かと取引していると疑う。あの工房で作られていた裁縫の最新の武器フェイファ。あなたたちは戦を起こす気ですか？それは私が決めることではない。ああいった手前条約の真似事はしておいてくれ。言われなくてもします。
I was gonna be making medicine.
シェンメイ様のご機嫌を損ねないように。戦か。大きく出たの。さてどうするか。国間さんは外は雪で逃げ出しても里に着く前に倒れそうだ。
No shit.
Yeah.
前にいたクス氏もこうやって言う。薬を試していて死んだようだけど。
Lots of books. She's never escaping. Not because she couldn't. Just because she doesn't want to anymore.
こんなことならちゃんと勉強していくんだった。今日の他にも子供がいるのか。ここに連れてこられるとき一緒に行くと言った兄弟
Oh.
スイレイは渋い顔をした。本当は里に留めておきたかったの。もし死の一族が謀反を起こしたとなれば一族老とその罪を負わされるだろう。それは女、子供でも子供たちは知っているのだろうか。大人たちは教えたのだろうか。人事だってしまえばいいのに。
So intense, this episode.
ここは笑うところ。父に憤っている。ここは一緒に怒るところ。母が折檻している。傍観するところ。そう理解した。
Her thing's all
お母様
broken.
が笑えば笑い、私が人形でいればお母様は怒らない。これ以上醜くならない。で窮屈だけど、それでもいいと思っていた。けれど汚らわしい。お前もあの女も生まれるべきで。私は間違えていた。お母様は人形のままでいてもお母様を止めることはできない。ああ、無駄だな。時にはもう何もかも遅かった。
おい、シェンメイ様がお呼びだ。クス氏を連れてきました。
失礼
In
し
the
ま
bath.
す。邪行の香り。何か混ぜ物をしているな。
She drugged these people?
Okay, you weirdo. I've been here like 2 hours, bro.
あら、そう。なんでしょうか、京さん。新しいクス氏だよ。なあ、シェンメイ様の部屋、他に女の人いなかった？本当か？俺の母様がいるはずなんだけど、元気そうだった？
Don't go in there.
王の母親のあの中に。どの方かわからないので、なんとも。仕方ないよな。
That's creepy.
やっぱ外で待ってればよかったかな。温泉郷に預けられていたのは母親に会わせないためか。自身が。では私はこれで。あ、おい。なんでもない。
そういうことか。ラが導き出される推測ですが、師匠が治める北方の砦で
Oh, they figured it out.
Yeah, well, they're tracking all the building materials.
でも届けは出されていません。つまり無本だ。
師匠が女帝の上心であったとしても許されることではありません。
どの程度進んでいる？敵から考えると、それなりに準備を整えているかと。
早々に大将、何をやっているのだね。ラハン。
父上。軍師殿。
生き方のもとへ通うものではない。変な誤解が生まれるよ。ただでさえ男とも女ともわからないお方なのだから。
What?
ボス。
しかし父上。軍師殿の言いたいことはわかります。不甲斐なさが問題なのでしょう。
その通り。
I see. I see. You just called him a bitch.
Yeah.
Basically. I didn't think of that. Oh my god. He's like, since I can't tell if you're a man or a woman with the way you've been acting lately. It makes me really happy that he loves her so much. Not quite, but close enough.
Yeah, let's go. Pack up.
Lock in.
Got the horses ready.
But he's also Oh. Call the fucking banners. You're not committing to yourself. Calls him right out. Low man.
Oh.
3 generations of this family. I love how he starts acting like a nephew, like as soon as he walks in. What happened to the babies? We haven't got a report on the babies. We just heard about the...
A very one-sided exchange. There's music right now. They're about to cook so hard.
Is he about to do what I think he's about to do? Oh, he's about to ask? Is he about to ask what I think he's about to ask? Okay, that's not what I thought he was going to ask. Let's go. I mean, it's time. It's past time.
スンファを用いた暗殺未遂ローランの逃亡の件もございます
But if they have guns and we don't,
揃っています
that's really, really bad.
助けるべきで
Yeah.
す
宦官人士に対する礼
Mm-hmm.
国に対する反逆の罪は
Yeah.
キングすなわち
Mm-hmm.
帝朝こと
The Forbidden Army.
Oh my god.
羅漢ではなく
かみそめの姿で欺き続けるつ
Oh
もり
my
ですか
god.
人士さん
No shot.
月の君
Tsukinoki.
と思っていたそれが今来たに過ぎない覚悟を決める時が来たようだ
Oh my god.
Finally.
What a sick episode.
Yep.
The whole episode was so good. What an absolute banger at the end. When the light like started coming in like that, you just and the music, you just knew that it was gonna be so good.
Could you imagine if somehow you hadn't been paying attention? You're like, what? Like, even though they revealed it multiple times.
During this episode,
Yeah. Well, they alluded to it hardcore, but like, what if you? Because the only like, there's been times where they've confirmed it, like when Boston.
Yeah.
No, not Boston. Gaoshun was talking to
Yeah.
himself on the boat. That was the most clear one, but there have been other times where it's been very obvious. But could you imagine if you were just not paying attention and then you get to this and you're like, he's the fucking prince. It's fucking crazy.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
So sick.
so
I love
awesome.
her like entire family is just like, bro, you need to give up your entire fake identity that you've been playing
Yeah,
at for
it's
the
like-
last however many years and fucking do something right now.
Yeah.
We need to rally the troops. Let's go.
Yeah, call the fucking banners, yo. Call the Forbidden Army. The Forbidden Army. Because, yeah, I guess there's, like, the 3 main houses or whatever underneath the royal family, right? So they all have their own armies, and then the Shi clan has the biggest army. Probably. They have the most resources. So then, you know, they all... I wonder how it works. Is it, like, they all send soldiers, or is it just people that are... like, clans that are bred and trained under them? Like, that's like kind of like how Gaoshun's family, the Ma clan or whatever, are like sworn to help or to defend the emperor. I wonder. But anyway, I really like the switch up with lock on.
I also do love the, oh yeah, I am a sorry eunuch, like just comes in and just like, and he's like, no, I didn't mean
Not
it."
you, uncle. He just like how he just talks to him. He like Lockon's just being all serious and crazy and like hardcore, and then he comes in and he starts talking like he's a teenager. Like
Yeah.
you know, like he just
Like
in the
he-
voice actor's intonations, he's assuming like he literally he goes from like a commanding father figure or like a strong person
yeah.
to literally like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
When Loman walks in because he thinks of him more like a father than his actual father.
Really good.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. What do you think is going on with this kid's mom?
Yeah, that's like fucking
Like
weird.
they're like drugging these. I imagine like, I mean they've used aphrodisiacs a million times.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, I imagine that's his mom just based off of hair color.
Yeah, but like, what the fuck is going on here?
I
Like,
don't
why,
know.
like, why did? Because the kid was alone in the hot spring village.
Yeah.
Just waiting, hanging out alone, and his mom. I don't even know if this is his dad or because he said, "Did you see my mom?" He didn't say anything about his
Yeah.
dad. Is like, is she literally just here as like some weird sex slave or like?
Yeah, it's just weird.
Like I don't know who this is. This weirdly looks kind of like just the hair kind of looks like suirei, but like so I don't know. Maybe there's something like a cousin or something like that. I have no idea. It's really fucking weird.
Yeah.
It's really really strange and odd. I don't know
You
what's
just
going
drug
on here.
people up and have them like in the corner
Banging
of
in the corner?
room?
Like are they like did we walk it like is it a censorship thing where they were having sex but they like because they're like giggling and like grabbing
Yeah.
each other and stuff. Is it you know, they just aren't showing. This is the aftermath. But then there's these people. Is there one person or multiple people
I think there's
kneeling in the
multiple
corner?
people over there.
Are they part of this too?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
or are
weird.
they just watching? Like, are they trying to conceive a child with like or something? Like, why would Shenmei, like, say she drugged these people? One of them's like one or both of them are nobles. She's like drugging them and making them bang in the corner to conceive a new like connection of the bloodline to spread their influence or something. Is that even factoring into it at all, or is it just a sick,
just
twisted
for
ownership?
vibes?
It's like an ownership thing where she's like a noble girl or whatever. So then you like are kind of sullying her and like having power over her by like having them do this in the corner. Am I reaching way too far with this? It doesn't feel like I am because it's
just
really weird.
especially like it's
just such an
weird
odd
in general,
thing.
but it's also weird because like you're
there, but then your daughter and
is
your
also there.
stepdaughter is sitting right there.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just.
And then the handmaiden has like similar bluish hair to suirei as well.
Well, it could be her because they did keep her as a servant.
Oh, that could be Suirei's mom right there. I don't know if would maybe as an ownership thing. Would she want to keep her as her main handmaiden,
Well,
just to dunk on her the whole time?
She might want also so she can like beat the shit out of her if she wants. I mean, she.
Yeah. Speaking of beating the shit out of her, she loves caning. She loves slapping people. She loves caning people. She like that. It seems like that's one of her main hobbies. And so it was said that Suirei's limpness and like she had basically a stroke while she like as part of being unconscious.
But she's covered in all.
But she's covering all the scars and shit. I think that like and
she got beat.
She may have before, but I think she was beaten to the point of like nearly dying after she got back. I would think. And it was because I called it, is what I'm saying. Because that was one that I was like, did she get beaten for failing, or was it just that she has like a stroke? Because she has all these marks on her. Were those marks there before? We just didn't see them because she was like a lady and she was in all the dresses and stuff. I don't know, but I think it's still possible that it might be revealed the more we go in that part of the reason why Suirei's mobility is damaged is not just because of the drug. It's because she was beaten within an inch of her life upon returning a failure. But yeah, so hang on, we need to go over her family tree here. So Shisho is an adopted child. Shenmei is the real heir. Shisho was what it was connected with suirei, right? Hang on, we need to look at all this. So, because what we knew before was it would have been Suirei's grandmother was the current emperor's sister? Or mother.
Current. Shisui's. No, fucking.
Suirei.
Suirei's.
Holy fuck, it's not that hard.
Suirei's grandmother, would have been the.
Because there was the doctor. What actually even happened? It was a girl. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. It was the previous emperor, pedophile. Impregnated a girl, and then the baby, who was probably Suirei's mom, was and it was passed off that the doctor at the time was the real parent. So they together had Suirei's mom, and then Suirei's mom was taken in as a handmaiden by the Shi clan, and then was taken as a wife or a concubine type person of Shisho, and they together had suirei, who originally was named Shisui, because it was giving her the actual title. So Shisho probably actually cares about suirei, or at least did at one point, if he was allowed at some point. Maybe Shenmei said, fuck you're not allowed to care about her.
Well, he probably cared about her up until Shenmei came home and then and kicked them to the curb.
Yeah. But I wonder if he still does, or if he's, you know, if he's even seen her, or like if he did see her, if he would feel bad, because he clearly loved her enough to give her his name, even though I guess he was adopted. So my father Shisho was originally from one of the Shi clan's offshoot families. Yeah, so like a branch family. However, the main family, Lady Shenmei's family, saw his talents and adopted him. Well, his talents, I guess, as a businessman. Give him the name Shisho, and the two became engaged. So like still like distant or somewhat distant cousins. But during the late emperor's reign, Lady Shenmei was taken to the rear palace. Yeah, so they got engaged, and then they got the offer for her to be a concubine. So then she left, and then he thought that it was chill. So then he got with the daughter of the doctor or of the emperor, and the handmaiden or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, it was
the one of the other girl.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been the pedo emperor. It would have been from the previous emperor because,
That is the previous emperor.
no, the previous non-pedo emperor.
No.
Because Shenmei was promised to the pedo emperor,
Yeah.
but he was getting with the adult daughter of the child. Okay, now I remember what it was. It was because her grandmother would have been kept in the rear palace until she died.
Yes.
So then, yeah, her mom is the daughter that got taken out with the doctor, and then she obviously grew up, got with Shisho when Shenmei was back in the rear palace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, when but then that. Oh yeah, no. So that and then that girl would have, suirei.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. See.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I can't believe that Shisho. Yeah, he just had like basically another wife and a child, and then they just get treated so differently, and it's so interesting when the whole concept.
Because he was not getting married to Shenmei.
Mm-hmm. But I guess what's interesting is, like, you know, in the rear palace where we spent a lot of the time, is like the whole concept is that you have multiple wives, and then it's like the children they're all still the child of the emperor, so they're all still good. You know what I mean? But in this, because they're not like the main royal family, it's like, oh, if you're the child of the fucking side piece, get out of here, you know? And yeah, really interesting how Lolon stole her name. I guess in a way it's kind of like
she took it just because like it wasn't a thing anymore. It's just to remember it. And it wasn't it. I think it's not, the idea is not that it's not like, oh, you're not you're the daughter of the side piece, therefore no, it's she would have been the main heir to all of this, because Shenmei was off to another thing, like, or not even the main heir, because I guess Shisho was adopted, and he was going to be married to or he was adopted, so he would be.
Yeah.
Because Shenmei is now a woman, and so she would be lesser
than the adopted son, yeah.
But she was going to go marry the emperor, so then she was going to be good there. But it didn't work out because she was too old. So, it's not that Suirei, or formerly Shisui, currently Suirei, is like the side piece. She was the main child, and she had that taken from her just because Shenmei said no, and she was like leveraging her sort of abusive power over this place, and her, you know, sort of tyrannical authority to say, no, your child is not the one, my child is the one. And even though she had kind of no right to do that, so she basically just ruined Suirei's life just for her own ambitions, basically.
Especially when it's not even like, and yeah, you know, she didn't even end up having a son or anything, she just has a daughter, which I guess in this case is actually better, because you can try and you can send them off to the rear palace as like a, you know, a way to advance and move higher up if they have a son of the emperor. But at the same time, they have been for the last couple years making a bunch of guns and getting ready for a potential war, which is going to be crazy, especially, like, you know, even if Jinshi is able to, like, you know, rally the army and get everything all ready, it's just
they're
like,
so far behind unless they get allies somewhere else. You know, like, only one of the emissaries was there, one of the girls. Maybe the other one is not maybe they're disagreeing, you know, and maybe one of them is with the Shi clan, and then the other one is like, oh, I don't know about this. So then they might be able to get, they might be able to sway like foreign powers to give the royal family guns, because it's like if these people have guns and have been training with them for years, they're fucked.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, if they're more rich and probably have a bigger army. You know, the Forbidden Army is one thing. I don't know, you know, usually stuff like that, like a royal army, if you don't have, if like a royal army's warring with like the biggest, richest, most powerful clan, then like they probably are actually at a disadvantage if they don't have other allies that have similar levels of power, especially if they're at a technological disadvantage, because like guns on the battlefield, it's just a completely different fucking game. You know? It's a completely different game.
The only advantage that they could get is if they are able to surprise them, you know. But they're camped out in a literal stronghold, in a literal spot that was made as like for defensive positioning.
Yeah, but we have a master strategist,
yes,
is the
we
thing,
do.
who never loses, except to his wife.
I'm so interested to see, like, if because in order to enact this, he'll have to just fully kind of give up this persona.
Yeah.
And also, you know, depending on how far he wants to go, he would potentially be revealing that the prince isn't sick. You know,
well, definitely.
Yeah, so then everyone's gonna know. So then, like, yeah, he has to change
commit.
he has to, yeah. And I like the whole thing with Lockhart being like, you know, you're not even a real eunuch. Everything you do is just like this half measure of like, you know, wishy-washy. Like you know, if you want to be this fucking eunuch guy, just be a eunuch. Don't fake being a eunuch.
Yeah, it's kind of Jinshi's whole arc, and then hopefully that'll be nice and complete, because that's what was preventing him and Maomao from really getting together and like being honest. You know, you want things to stay as they are because you're afraid of them changing, you're afraid of things being too complicated, you're afraid of like you're afraid of the future, and you're afraid of like committing to who you really are, because it would change their dynamic. Hence the whole frog thing, and hence the whole, you know, all that shit, that entire situation. And their entire relationship up to this point, because it's had a certain rhythm to it, it's had a certain comfortability to it, but it's not what it could be. But if it's going to be what it could be, you have to be honest, and this is kind of a big calling to that. And that's the same thing with his identity as a prince, and I think the emperor probably wants him to take control in that way, because he really cares about him. And you know, it can only be a good thing if he like adopts the but he's gotta have a little bit more confidence, because it always goes back to, at least in my mind, to where he was talking about how nothing he has except for his looks and his name basically are like a result of his effort or his skill or anything. Like, he's not as smart as other people, he's not as like, he's intelligent, but he can't like beat anybody, you know. He's not gonna beat Lockhart. He's skilled with a sword, but and he can beat Bossen, but you know, he's not going to beat Gaoshun, or he's not, you know, like he has all these weak points and he has all these strong points, but he's like a jack of all trades type thing. And so he wants to like have something that's his own, but he's pushing away because of that, he's pushing away his title and his identity, but he's going to have to come to terms with that and own his identity and own himself in order to get what he wants and actually be forthright with that, which is going to be really cool to see.
Yeah, I feel like I'm extra excited, like, but also it's sketchy because Shisui has become such a likable character, like, and a friend to Maomao, and like Maomao was saying, is just like, die. Yeah, like
they're all gonna
they're die. all of them treasonous. They're all like committing like the most horrible crime that you could be committing right now.
Treason.
So, you know, it's like, obviously you want Jinshi to go and, you know, get Maomao and this and that, but it's just like at the same time you're like, holy shit.
That's why I didn't think that they were going to be talking about armies, and why, because the show, like with murders and stuff, is like, my mind, whenever a new mystery come up, I'm like, oh, they probably killed them. They probably murdered them because they found out some shit. And then usually it's a misunderstanding. Usually there's like a way that it's solved that doesn't that kind of removes fault from people, except for in a few circumstances that are relating to like the grander overarching plot. And it doesn't seem like going to all out war, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that the show would focus on. That's not been like the focus of the show and the way that the moment to moment has gone. So, but then also, like, how is this, because of how Shisui has been built up as like a good person, all these people, and even Suirei is complex. Why, what is the series going to end with? Just like, okay, Jinshi and Maomao to get together, but Suirei, Shisui, and thousands of people get burned
Innocent
to death.
Children.
Yes, this Kyo kid.
Yeah.
Like, they all just die. Like, I don't see that happening, but I don't see any other way, because it's just protocol. Like, it's just what they have to do. Because the fear is, okay, we killed your whole family. Now you're an adult and you have this family name, or are connected to all these people that that don't like us, or you really don't like us, or you have like a name that kind of garners power. Now you're gonna rise up against us again. So it's kind of just standard operating procedure to just murder everyone who is against you, like if they're even remotely connected, so that there's no ties to that type of sentiment. But I don't see how a story that's been the story that it is, and all about like misunderstandings, or like finding the coming to terms with the truth, or trying to find not a peaceful solution, but like a solution that takes into account the messy circumstances of life. Like that's kind of what this whole series has been about. So I don't know how it's going to go from that to war and executing characters that are like made to be beloved to the main character. Like, I don't know how it's going to be
which
that.
makes me think that it's like not going to do that, but I don't know what it's going to do instead. But I feel
But
like
what I don't want it to do is to do all that and then not kill the characters that we know, just to pull punches because Maomao doesn't want them to, or because they want to spare them. And then but maybe it'll be part of the story of like Jinshi is taking a hold of his authority, and he's just going to say, yeah, no, spare these people. And
maybe even, it could be like, okay, we don't want to throw everything, the way this entire country works, into disarray. Shisho's whole positioning kind of within everything, it seems to be important to the way that everything functions, so if you could be like, okay, Shisho, Shenmei, you guys are done, like, you guys are done. But, maybe Lolon, like, obviously she was involved, she was, like, but because that's the thing, too, is, like, she's so good that's, like, you would be like, oh, maybe she could just take over as, like, head of that family and, be good. But even though none of, like, the shit that she was doing was her idea, and she was being, forced into it by her mom, she still
people are killed for less.
Yeah, exactly.
People are killed for less. People are killed for a wrong look, or, saying the wrong thing at a gathering. So like I'm curious to see how the story will not burn them at the stake or execute them on sight, and solve this problem and have it not be, feel like it's kind of neutering what the fears that have been set up. Because I don't see any other way out of it, right? If we're talking realistically, but there must be something. I think that it probably will come down to, part of Jinshi taking control of his identity and taking control of his place in life and being honest with everybody and himself. If he can only save, those people can only be saved if he takes that authority for himself and if he owns it. Because if he owns it, then he has the power to say no. So I think that that's probably the only way that it's going to go. If it even goes to battles like that, it might come down to Maomao poisoning Shenmei, or because they're talking about the resurrect, or the eternal youth drug.
That was a good lie as well. Like, oh, she's over 30. She looks really young because she hasn't aged anymore. And then it's just because
she believed it really quick, though.
She believed it really quick, but we also found out that that's what she was looking for before.
Yeah.
And like, also, I feel like our first impression of her was so accurate. Like like, we saw her and it was immediately like, she looks like someone in like real life who gets a lot of bad plastic surgery and wears a lot of makeup to try and look young, but it's making them look older. And then it turns out that like she literally wants like an immortality, eternal youth kind of drug.
Yeah, well, because all of her power was taken, like, her entire power was based on her beauty as a young woman, and then she wasn't young enough, she wasn't beautiful enough for the previous emperor, so she lost. And that's been her entire life, and it's only getting worse, because that's what happens when you base your entire identity on your beauty, is it'll eventually go away. You know, and that's just how it is. But it's also it's not just about her placing her identity on that. She exists within a society that, you know, puts that as the highest priority. There's, like, you know, so much competition, and it's hyper competition because there's one emperor and there's like 50 freaking thousand women who are all sent from across the country to garner his attention. And, you know, whoever's the most beautiful or suiting to his taste wins. And you know, that's somehow even more toxic than, like, just, you know, toxic beauty standards of today. You know, it's somehow even worse. It's like, yeah, because there's just so much competition. And yeah, so it's you could blame Shenmei, but you gotta you can hate the player, but you gotta hate the game. It's because the game is rigged. The game is set up against them. And it's kind of funny, especially. Well, it's not really funny, but it's like in this series, I've talked a lot about how the most powerful and influential people are, like, the women behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, there's people like Shenmei, who's, like, the scariest, most powerful woman, but she's really just an abusive mother, and she's not even the person with the power in her family, because it was given just to the adopted son from a branch family. So, like, she had this power, she had this title that was, like, the heiress to the most powerful family. Then they were worried, because they didn't have a male heir, so they adopted one of the lesser clan's sons. Yeah. Just so that they would have a male heir. Then she gets sent off to become the empress. Because that's just the best she can do. Best she can hope for. And then the guy's a pedophile who likes younger women, and she's what, in her early 20s, maybe late teens by that point. So then but she's still just too old, and she still just loses out. So then she gets sent back and has to be, like, a stranger in her own home because he has moved on and had a family already. And then so she, like, completely bursts into that, forces her way into that relationship, forces the previous family out, and takes control of it through tyranny, because that's the only. So, like, she doesn't even. It seemed like by that point she lost, like, 3 times in a row. Yeah. She lost her family position, and then she was sent off, and she lost the title of empress, and then she came back to the man that she was supposed to marry originally. Maybe she even loves him or loved him. Maybe at some point when they were young, they were actually in love, and it was kind of a tragedy to get sent off, but maybe she had ambition. Or maybe her family had ambition. It was just like Lolon. She didn't actually want to do that. Maybe she wanted to stay with Shisho, and they actually fell in love. And then she comes back, and he's moved on and had another family. So she loses 3 times in a row, all based on her on how beautiful she's supposed to be. And, you know, it's all based on her value as a woman. And it's all completely disregarded by everybody. You know, how I feel like that's the exact kind of recipe that would turn somebody into a tyrannical, devouring mother, who's just a complete psycho. And maybe she, even when she was at the Rear Palace, met the previous dowager. Well, yeah, Shisho was right. That was the thing with Shisho.
Shisho was, like, besties.
He was the favorite of the previous dowager.
Yeah.
What's the thing there, then? What's going on there? There's a whole other arm to this that I didn't even think about. I wonder, then, because I was thinking Shenmei might have, like, learned this, like, hatred or this, like, ownership, this whole thing, like, the way that the previous dowager, like, lorded over the emperor, her son. You know, maybe they had a connection like that. Anyway,
what if the dowager empress, I wonder if she was, like, always working good with Shisho because on the inside of the rear palace, she was actually working with Shenmei, who is, as we've seen, like kind of also a political mastermind and, you know, doing a bunch of stuff. Like, I wonder if she had a good relationship with Shisho because she had a good relationship with Shenmei inside the rear palace.
I could see that. I could see what I could see is the previous emperor's mother, the previous dowager, who was like behind everything. What if she like really took to Shenmei, and then they were like really gonna get married and be together, like the emperor and Shenmei, but then the emperor didn't like her, and then it was like it made an even harder thing on her. No, I don't know. That doesn't sound right. I don't know. I don't know how that goes together. There's something there though with the dowager and Shisho and Shenmei. Like I haven't even thought about how that whole relationship probably went or how that fits together.
Yeah.
But it must be related to all this shit. Like I don't know whether it's more likely for Shenmei to be because the dowager was like really had a lot of ownership over the previous emperor, and it would fit with the kind of themes of these types of relationships, especially in the show, if they were in competition, because Shenmei really wanted to like be the empress and like take, like similar to how the actual dowager now the current emperor's mom, right, the current emperor, like how she has a lot of ownership over the previous emperor, like how like that whole situation where there's, you know, he's the abuser and then she abuses him, and she like, but also is, you know, she's kind of sick. It's kind of like maybe mirroring or setting up, foreshadowing this relationship that Shenmei has, or these feelings that Shenmei has, because the current dowager, she like was resentful of the emperor for like looking elsewhere, and like even though she was abused and even though she was like, so there's this weird kind of twisted up thing there. So Shenmei probably feels the same way, but maybe the dowager felt the same way as well. So maybe like what and it's always been the thing of like, what is the favorite? Like, what is this favorite thing?
Yeah.
Is the previous dowager also a pedophile for young boys? And because Shisho wouldn't be that old, right? He would be like in his 40s. That was 20 years ago. So he, like, I guess he wouldn't be a child necessarily, but like maybe my point is maybe Shenmei was like the favorite. She's the heiress of the biggest clan, and she's going to marry the emperor. Oops, emperor is abused and stuff. Maybe Shenmei even did the abusing, because there was talk about how the previous emperor was like maybe raped by a woman or raped by many women when he was young, and then rebounded and like passed that down as abuse victims do to you know, his own victims. Maybe there's something like that, and maybe Shenmei perpetrated that because of frustration out of her life, or because she was just a psycho. Maybe. And then if there's this, because there's always this ownership around the emperor, despite the fact that he's like mentally a child and he's like stunted emotionally and developmentally, and that's part of the reason why he was a monster. But you know, maybe there's like, because there's all this ownership with the current dowager, the emperor's mother, Jinshi's like supposed mom, although it's actually Ado, but the supposed mom, and how she's like, she felt all this kind of like ownership in this kind of like toxic relationship. Maybe everyone was kind of feeling that. Maybe the dowager had that over her son, and Shenmei had that over him, and like it was tearing him in all these different directions, all because of his position, all because he had power that they coveted, that they wouldn't ever be able to get on their own, because they're women, even if they, you know, even if the entire country's history is predicated on this myth relating to a woman that gave birth to the country. So like, you know, maybe that could have led to the previous dowager like lusting or taking after Shisho in a way. But then how does that lead in with his family? Maybe he I don't know. There's I didn't realize until you said it, but how much relationship is still yet to be uncovered with that whole side of things.
Yeah, because we had, for a long time previously, suspected that the previous Dowager Empress and Shisho had potentially had a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
But, but then there's all the things with now that we know a bit more about Shenmei's character, like, even before we met her, we had suspected that she was, like, the, kind of in charge and, like, making all the plans, and, like, she was the one cooking up all these schemes so that Shisho, like, kind of wouldn't be. Like, what if I mean, maybe Shisho is actually good. What if Shisho was, like, the favorite because Shenmei was just, like, telling him what to do via the Dowager Empress?
Yeah.
Like, she's just, like, okay, but at the same time, like, Shisho was adopted specifically because he, like, had talent, whatever, whatever. He was picked for a reason out of, like, any number of guys that they could have picked to adopt. So, I'm not saying that he's, like, necessarily useless, but, like...
He's useful more as a male heir than he is as, like, a particular businessman, I guess. You know, like, anyone can learn business and learn how to manage shit, I guess,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's still a lot going on there with Shisho, with the Dowager, with Shenmei, and their time in the Rear Palace. I bet we'll get maybe, hopefully, a little bit more of that before this whole thing's over, because I'd like to know what the kind of relationship was there.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, they talked about that a lot for a long time. So, I'm interested. And I think that's one thing that I really like about the show, is, like, even when we get, like, a bunch of reveals, like, obviously, the Jinshi being the prince thing has been, like, essentially revealed for a very long time. Yeah. But the fact that that is, like, seemingly soon going to be, like, kind of phased out as, like, a thing within the story.
That's allowed to be, within the ambiguity.
Yeah. And even for the other characters within the story, like, not knowing, like, they're kind of, like, fully ripping back the curtain off of that one. But the fact that, we finally met Shenmei, it's like, oh, now we finally see her. Oh, the Lolon thing is 100% confirmed. There's all these things within this episode that, like, get nailed down. But when you look into it, there's still, like, a million things that we don't fully know and haven't fully, come to be yet. So it's still very interesting, and, wondering what Shisho and the previous Dowager Empress were up to, and, is everyone just gonna get murdered, or, is there gonna actually be a war, or is there gonna be some way, is maomao gonna do something, or Jinshi's gonna do something that's gonna somehow, stop it? Yeah, I don't know. It's very good. This was a really good episode.
Leave a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
Bye-bye.